Say again.
I got an hour at least.
All right, cool.
Is that how much? I mean, most of your times. Hey, also, I noticed some of your guests, right? Their head like right up in it like this, like big head. You know, I'm trying to do more like this. It's more casual.
Talking about. So anyway,
what? Yeah, when you read my book, I'm trying to do that, man. But I don't have all that fancy camera stuff. All right, this is just straight off the Mac. All right.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah,
so I don't have anything fancy. I just got the iMac. All I got.
I see your microphone. I see your microphone right there.
I got a nice mic
What
here.
you got? Dre Beats? You got Dre Beats in?
No, these are.
What do you got?
These are. Man, I like the dark at least. These are J. What are they called?
J Birds?
No, these are. These are. well, Luke calls it. He's like, "Hey, I want you to know, I ordered you some earbuds." I said, "Some earbuds." You like Airbus golden receiver? Is that what?
Yeah. Those earbuds are nice.
I don't remember what these are. I like them. What
kind of budget is the Homilist running on these days?
Oh, fella, dude. Listen, it's like we push around like weight. Like we're stacking. You used to see what they do. They're stacking up the bills in the back.
Hey, man. Also, where's your buddy? Where's your side partner here?
No. That's a special.
What? He only comes on for the big guys?
Yeah. Oh. That dude only comes out of the woodwork if they got like hit books, hit records.
Oh, man.
That's it. You know, I'll call him and I'll say, "Hey, so and so's coming." He'll be like, "Pass."
Hey, I don't blame him. I don't blame him, dude. I do the same thing.
I got Matt Cote coming on the podcast. He said,
"Who?
Is that with a D?"
Yeah.
I said, "No, that's a T-E. That's a
C because it's French, homie. That's what it is."
He said French. Pass. So,
hey, you know what? Next time I'm gonna tell my assistant. Tell him, we'll print it out. We'll print out the email and put it in my pile, and then I'll go through it and see if it's worth my time. Okay.
Oh man, I tell you what. Hey, what about my other one? My other one was good though, huh? When I fired back with the book, with the book titles.
Yeah, I like your emails. You're a good writer, dude. That's why I want to read your book.
Man, I'm telling you what. Hey, and I still got no response. Luke looked at me. He said, "Dude, did you really send that email to her about that guy?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "That's over now, right? You know that. That's over.
It's over.
That
ain't happening. Yeah. You blew that one.
You missed that. That one's over." Yeah. He's like, that's okay. I think that's
mailed
okay.
That one.
Yeah. He's like, that's over now. You're done.
Yeah.
You're done.
Oh man.
That's awesome. Well, let me do my intro and then we'll get right to it.
Do it.
And you can drop all your wisdom. All in one spot.
All right.
All right here in one place.
Hey, this is a cussing podcast or no? No cussing.
This is a no cussing podcast. It's a no cussing podcast.
You got to tell me this stuff, dude. I don't know what the rules are.
There's a no cussing. It's a no cussing podcast.
All right.
Unless you're Will Willimon, you know, if you're Will Willimon, you can do it. You say whatever, but that's what happens.
Yeah.
He's old, and it's like when old people get the internet. Like you don't need to be on the internet. So,
right.
Old people.
Okay. Just need to clarify.
Yeah, no, there's a no cussing. There's a no cussing podcast. First off, two things that happen if that happens. Ozark Christian College will come in here and jerk their sponsorship right away from me.
Well, yeah, that's the sponsor.
You know, and we'll be working with like the 99% of our budget after that.
Yeah, you have to sell them J Birds and get these the Airbuds from 1992.
I went to the gym the other day and somehow I thought my AirPods were in the truck and they weren't. Yeah. And so I was like, "Son, I got no."
That's the worst.
This sucks.
Yeah.
So I went over to the Lost and Found and I found some old school white ones.
Yeah.
pretty sure I got leprosy and ear mites.
Earwax, earwax all up in that.
They're the ones that they weren't even shaped or formed. They were just a spigot, like you just jamming a 6x9 right inside your head on both sides. It was awesome.
I get it because it's the worst when you don't have your music.
Well, it's not. That's not the very worst thing. The very worst thing is when somebody comes in and they forgot theirs, but they keep playing it on the speakers over by them.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah.
The radio's on. Freaking Gin Blossoms are playing, but they're over there and they got Nicki Minaj. You know, this guy's doing curls with some Nicki Minaj. Fella,
that is true. No, you're right. I've seen that.
Bad deal.
Yeah.
All right.
Ready.
Matt, Cote, welcome to the Homilist podcast.
Thanks, bud.
Nice to see you.
To you.
Matt Cote, Rocky Mountain Christian Church. Wow. Frederick campus.
Frederick campus.
Frederick campus pastor, Matt Cote, Rocky Mountain Christian Church. That's awesome. How long have you been
there? 5 years. Am I the first campus pastor you've had on this?
You know what? You are the first campus pastor.
Hey, it's good to give us some love, dude, because we be doing some work, okay?
Well done. Yes. Well, let me start over. Let me start this over.
Thank you.
Matt Cote, welcome to the Homilist podcast.
Thank you.
This is, here for the listeners, this is the important part right here. This is Matt Cote, the very first campus pastor we've ever had on the Homilist. This is incredible.
There it is. A lot of times we get overlooked, okay? We get overlooked.
Yeah.
Because we don't have the title, okay? Because we don't have the title. But I'm telling you, we out here doing work.
So what's with the title? Why is there a little bit of loss in power when people start tagging campus pastor on? So why does that happen?
It's like I was just chatting with a guy this morning. It's like campus pastors is the step up. That's the bump up. That's like a AAA ball. See? And lead pastor is the big leagues. And so they down there, man, making $18 a day, riding on buses from 84. But we getting it done.
No air
conditioning, but we are getting it done. Okay.
Oh man,
you gotta have more campus guys because, all right, these are the guys.
Is that where the juice is?
These guys are doing work. Okay.
There's
some nuggets of truth down there. There's some nuggets of truth that you need. They got it.
Now, is it true with most campus pastors that you really kind of have to contact the head pastor of the church and see if it's okay for them to talk? Is that?
It depends. Yeah, because they want them to be working, man. They don't want them to be out there speaking and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
And part of the reason that happens is because campus pastors are mostly doing all the sermon writing for the lead guys, right?
Can be some ghost writing. Yeah.
Some ghost writing. I think it happens a little more often than people want to talk about.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. A little bit of ghost writing. Yeah.
I hear some stuff sometimes and I think, I ain't buying it. That ain't yours.
No, that ain't yours. That's not you. That ain't you.
It's a good try. You delivered it like you owned it. You made it yours.
Right.
I don't think you wrote it though.
Right. Yeah. There's a fine line. Yeah, there's a fine line.
It's kind of like who wrote this song? When you used to read inside the who wrote this song?
Oh yeah.
Before names in front of the guy who is in the band. Yeah. And you never heard of these four guys over here, and then this guy at the end. You know what happened? They wrote it, and they were like, "Dude, will you change that word to at?"
That's right. And now it's his.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like Vanilla Ice. That's what he did for his song.
Is that right?
Yeah, he just added a little dun at the end of the line. He put in a little extra bass note. Now it's his. Yeah.
I love the argument. Yeah. If you go back and you listen to him talking about that, and he's like, "No, dude, it wasn't even the same. It wasn't even the same song. Theirs was like dun 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 dun." He said mine was like dun 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 dun. I was like, "Oh, dude, I don't even know if there's a difference. I don't even know what you just said." So yeah.
No, it's his.
So campus pastors are they're pulling their weight.
Hey, yeah, and I'm hopefully I can represent them well. Hopefully,
you're gonna do. I think you're gonna do fine.
Well, I appreciate that.
So, so here's the deal. when I met you out of Colorado this last year, I had this thought. I thought, this guy preaches with a sound that sounds like a Matt Chandler or like an angry Francis Chan. or some, I don't know. It's like, what is it? I'm not sure. Like, I'm hearing the influences. I think it's the influences. I'm hearing the influences.
Yeah.
And then, and so we had a brief conversation about it. And you're like, I do like Matt Chandler stuff. Mm-hmm. And then as the week went on, I started hearing the difference in your preaching and the influence. What I was hearing in the influences completely went away. And listen, and now this will be the first time. This will be the first time on the Homilist podcast that I've ever said this. Okay. So, and you moved into the category of my favorite preacher to listen to.
Oh, dude, that blows my mind, dude.
It's the real deal. It's the real deal.
Now, I've watched your other episodes, and I know, man, you haven't said that before.
I have not. No, I have not said
that. That's crazy to me. That's crazy.
Listen, and now here's the thing. When Will Willimon tells a story, I'm locked in. Yeah. Locked in. Because I can't escape this ride he's about to take me on, because he's about to twist and turn this thing. He's going to mess with the scripture. He's going to do some stuff. Okay. Yeah. When I've had Mark Scott on before, we didn't ever upload the episode. We had some corruption of files and all this anyway. But when I hear Mark Scott preach, I know what I'm about to get is a great big huge plate full of just spiritual food to eat, because Mark Scott does a knockout job. When Mark Moore preaches, I know it's going to be very heady. Yeah. And I like that. I think that
sorry, choking a little bit, dude.
Sorry,
keep going. Come on.
I thought maybe he had something against he had something against Mark Moore. I wasn't sure.
No. I just bought his book because of your podcast, man.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. So there's different guys that when I hear their stuff, I think, man, I really like this thing, or I really like that thing. You moved into that category of my favorite preacher to listen to. And it's, as I try to pick it apart, there's some things, and I want to come back. I want to have that conversation about picking some of your stuff apart and talk about the things that I really, really admire about it. And so when I say that, I really do mean it. Like, that's, now listen, we're kind of like the pop charts here. All right. Yeah. Somebody else shows up, you might get bumped.
Right. Well, this week I'm number one.
But listen, you've been number one for some weeks now.
I got a new album brewing, bro. All right.
Yeah. Wait, push it out there. Make sure it's got some pump to it, because
when I'm touring next summer, I'll have some new stuff. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah. And I'll be there. I'll be there to hear it next summer.
Love it. Yeah.
It'll be great.
I'm in.
Yeah. So I want you to know that. I want you to know, like, that was a big deal to me. I thought, man, this guy's doing something different. We'll come back to that. Let's talk about this other stuff first.
Okay.
All right. So just some introductory questions here. All right.
Yep. Bring it.
All right. Here you go.
C.
Pass it. No, it's not multiple choice. That's the campus pastor party you coming out.
That's right. Sorry.
You just look at whatever he wants, whatever the lead guy wants. Yeah, coffee. Okay. Yeah. The soy milk? No. Okay.
Be right back. Yeah.
What passage of scripture makes you laugh?
I was just in it a couple of weeks ago from one of our messages, but I think it's right now it's Galatians 5, where we were talking about, Old Testament law, and then we were working in the New Testament a little bit. And then when Paul's battling some of that Jewish tradition, and now as the gospel is getting into the Gentiles, and he's working on circumcision, he's talking about circumcision. Mm-hmm. He gets into Galatians 5, and he pretty much just says, if you jokers are so serious, you should just cut the whole thing off. Just cut it off.
Yeah.
uh, which I had
Go
fun
go
on
the
stage.
distance.
No, go the distance. If you're really serious about your faith, go ahead and chop it off. And I had some words that I wanted to use on stage, and I didn't. I got asked not to. But for me, I there's some good stuff in there, man. I mean, Paul, he's
Yeah.
you know,
That's legit. That's legit.
He's not talking about being recircumcised, just to be clear. He's not talking about circumcision times 2.
Right.
Okay, he's going, just, you don't even have to talk about it. If you don't have one, you don't even have to talk about it. Just cut it off. That's how serious he is. Yeah.
So good.
So good.
So good.
Yeah.
Now, hey, so now listen. Can you say what you were going to say from stage that you were asked not to say? Can you say it here?
I would just say this. I would have used the word nuts.
Yeah. Man.
Yeah.
I love it. I love what you said. I love what you said.
Stayed away from.
I love what you said when you said, if it's not there, then you can't talk about it. You know? There's no brag. No bragging whatsoever. No bragging whatsoever. If it's gone. That's funny.
I get serious. So I have fun with that one. The crazy scriptures, I mean, there's a lot of them in the Old Testament. The one I always think about is the one with Elisha. I think it's Elisha, where there's some dudes talking trash. He's like walking. I think it's in 2 Kings, and he's walking, and he like throws a curse on him or something. Then it said these bears come out, and they just freaking rip them to shreds, like 40 of them or something. It's not funny. You shouldn't be laughing, but it's crazy.
I love
it's crazy when you read it, because it comes out of nowhere, and he's like, you know what? Forget you. And then the bears come and kill them all.
Yeah, I like it because the first part of that is they said go on up, Baldy.
They make fun of his haircut. Yeah.
Go on up. They say go on up, Baldy. And
that's right.
Down here comes the bears and eat him up.
The 2 bears come out, just freaking rip them up, and I like that. I like that.
That's funny.
I like that. We need to preach on that more often. Yeah.
The next time somebody says something about my beard or my height, go on up, shorty. Go on up, shorty.
Yeah.
Like
exactly.
Call. Yeah. That's good stuff. That's it. Yeah, that's funny. That's a funny one. Who inspires you? Who inspires you when it comes to communicators? Comedians, speakers, artists. Who inspires you?
Yeah. We already mentioned him earlier, Matt Chandler. I really do enjoy him. I listen to him a lot. I listen to J.D. Greer a lot. He's out in North Carolina. On the preaching side, I've been a fan of Francis from day one, and I enjoy him quite a bit. Louis Giglio, I enjoy listening to that guy. So that's on the preaching side. Artist side, I'm not a huge music guy, but the music I do listen to, I like rap. You?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
You're in Kansas. Do you know rap? Okay.
Oh, I know it. I know it.
Yeah, West Coast.
Hey, stop. Pause for 1 second.
Yeah.
Do you know who I just invited on the podcast?
Who?
And got a response from today? Okay, you have to look this dude up. Okay. He's a battle rapper out of Kansas City.
Okay.
And his name's A Ward. Ward. Okay.
I'll look him up.
Look him up. A Ward.
So he's Christian or no?
Christian dude. Hey, but in the battle rap game,
he's on it.
They say nasty things about this dude. They say nasty things about him, nasty things about God, nasty things about his wife. They're nasty to this dude. Hey, and he just keeps right with it. And then when he comes out, gobbles him up. Like it's so.
I'm gonna check him out.
A Word.
I think I joke on stage here like with NF. I mean, I've been following him for 4 years now. He's a theologian, bro. I mean, the way that he's using some of his words and stuff he's getting into, I mean, I'll joke, I'll quote some of his lyrics sometimes because it's, they're very vulnerable and real and very deep. So, his new album is fire. Yeah. And he's coming out to Red Rocks this year on the 13th, and I won't be here because I'm going to be in Kenya. So, Yeah, that's hurting my soul a little bit. But I'm a big fan of him. And Need to Breathe, I'm a big fan of. I enjoy listening to them. And then I'm a big baseball guy, man. I'm a big sports guy, but baseball for sure. So if there's a good baseball story going around, or one of my buddies right now is playing on the Cubs and busted his tail in AAA ball, like that campus pastor was busting it down there for 5 years or 6 years. Got the call up last year and doing some good stuff. So, yeah, those are kind of some of the things that really influence me and my thinking. So
yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I really do admire NF. I really like his stuff. I like his stuff a lot. And I tell you who else loves it. Excuse me. My 12-year-old daughter. And listen, NF is a little heavy and a little dark for my 12-year-old ray of sunshine.
Yeah.
Hey, but she puts it on in the bathroom when she showers.
Oh,
and she's like, you took those pills, didn't you, Mom? She's in the bathroom screaming it out. You took those pills, didn't you, Mom?
Okay, so listen, my girls love it, right? They love it. My 7-year-old can rap just about half of his new album. So we're very cautious because some of those songs, but I was chatting with my wife last week, and it's funny because he's married now, right? And it's like, hey, sooner or later, this got to turn around a little bit. If you're married now and you just rap about how your life sucks, at some point, so
that's funny.
But he's we enjoy him in the Cote household for sure.
Yeah. Oh man, it's so great. It's so great. Here when I hear my 12-year-old, because she's just so pretty and precious and just so well put. And she goes in the bathroom and then you just hear this just coming out,
just screaming. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, that's awesome. That's awesome. When it comes to your preaching style.
Yeah.
And we've talked about some of your influences. When it comes to your gifts, your abilities, your talents, what would you say about style wise? Like what would be your preaching style? If we can move such a ridiculous word into the conversation of preaching, is there?
Yeah. I think if people would describe me to someone who hasn't heard me preach, I think they would say he's loud. He likes to live in the tension. He doesn't have an issue going there. Like he'll go right there to that line, and he's okay hanging out right there to make a point. I think they would say he's funny. A lot of times out here, I had my small group last year. It was really cool. They wrote me a note just of encouragement, and everyone in the note just said, you're my favorite storyteller. I think people would say, we love it, when you tell stories. But I think when I preach, it's like, hey, it's go time. We're gonna go get it. It has that kind of urgency to it. And I think a lot of that just obviously my personality. On the Enneagram, I'm an 8, and so we're challengers, and that's a lot of my preaching. I feel like is just, hey, I want to challenge what you may think about this, or what church is, or what it should be, or how you view this topic. That's where I want to get to. I like it when some people are walking out crying, when some people are walking out pissed, when some people are like. To me, I go, all right, we dealt with something that was worth showing up for. So I would just say, has that energy and that urgency, and it can be loud. And for some people, they don't care for it. They take that as being very in your face and offensive. But I think over time too, you begin to see my heart for what I'm saying, or my heart for the church, and so my motives I think are pure. But that's how I think I would describe myself.
Yeah, and I would agree. And I think it's interesting that you brought up excuse me.
Get it out. Yeah.
I think it's interesting that you brought up the storytelling aspect of that, and that they said that you are you are their favorite storyteller. And here's the reason I say that, because one of the things that I want to talk about with your preaching style that captured me is your storytelling is good, but when you were in the narrative, when you were in the narrative of a story, specifically the New Testament, okay, because I've heard you do a lot of stuff from the New Testament, okay, when you were there, one of the things that you do, and this is what's so different about it, and this blows my mind because I've never heard anybody do it, and maybe somebody else has, but I have not, and I listen to a load of stuff to try to learn something, some new way of doing this. But when you tell a story, or when you're preaching a narrative, so let's use the story of the father that comes to Jesus and says, "Will you come and heal my daughter?" Okay,
right, yeah,
and you get this story. What I've seen you do is you'll take a narrative like that and you'll run it through. You don't mess with the scripture. You don't inflate one part or exaggerate another part, or you really don't even tag emotion in on top of it and try to. I haven't seen you do a lot of that. What you do is you tell the first part of the story, and at some point in there, you'll break the story off. And then what you do, and this is the coolest part, you'll insert a multitude of human experiences, possible human experiences, into that, just asking questions of it, all in one place. So why is this guy so worked up about Jesus coming and healing his daughter?
Right.
And then you'll start in by asking questions like, it's not in the text, but could there have been some pregnancy issues?
Yeah, some miscarriages. Yeah.
Some fertility issues.
Right.
That, every Jewish father wants a son.
Yeah.
And this guy's got a daughter.
Yeah.
Maybe this is the only one. And maybe they've tried and tried and tried. You don't know.
Yeah.
That's a normal thing. And the pain that comes along with that is a normal thing. And when you insert that much human experience, just human experience, and there's no supposing of the story. There's no, this is what's going on here, or this is what's going on with the woman or with the wife. And, or imagine with me for a minute, maybe this is a conversation that they had. It's just maybe this, maybe this, maybe this, maybe this. This is common. This was common. This was common. This was common. This was common. And then you go back to the story and you just continue with the story. And to me, that was the coolest thing, because I'm prone in my preaching to taking the story and I'll adjust almost all the dials.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever gone back to a sound booth like at your church and you see the sign that says "Do not touch the dials"?
Yeah. Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
That sign is for a guy like me. I would touch all the dials. I got no reason to touch any of them, but I want to touch them all. I just want to. What's it do? Let's figure it out.
Yeah.
So with the story, I tend to do the same thing, and I have to be careful not to push that too far. What you do, though, is just such a cool thing. You're so true to the text, and then you break it right in half, and you pour massive amounts of human experience right into the middle of the story. Then you take the other half of the story and you put it together. And then I can't hear the rest of the story without filtering it through all the stuff that you mentioned earlier in the story.
Yeah.
It's such a cool thing.
Yeah. It just goes back, I think all of us have a story, in relationship to where we are in our journey with Jesus. My story growing up in the church, like I wouldn't say I was receiving bad preaching. It just didn't feel very real. It was kind of like, yeah, that's good. And there's 6 points that all start the letter D. You wrote them down and then you went home and that was it. Because I was like, well, yeah, that's the Bible, but it's the Bible. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it doesn't really have any relevance in my life. And so I just really value the realness of it. Sometimes we can read stories and we're not there. And so I want to bring people there to go, like, that was me, what's going on in my head? What would it smell like? And I think when we can bring ourselves there, then those stories really become those are unbelievable stories.
Yeah.
I just preached on Hosea, so it's an unbelievable story. But you read it and you go, oh yeah, and then you go, yeah, but that was me. If I'm there and I gotta act, how much is my wife being sold for? That's a different ballgame. And so, yeah, I'm not trying to put anything in the text that isn't there. I'm just going, hey, if it was me though, right? And that's a way to bring your audience in too, because my audience is filled with dads, right? And you go, hey, if you were Jairus, how would you feel there? I'm saying I'd be doing, right? And yeah, I would push aside all that cultural, religious stuff, and I would throw my body at his feet. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't care what anybody else thought. That's my role, right? So you bring that into it, and I think everyone's like, yeah. And now it's not a story that happened 2,000 years ago. I'm feeling something that's very real in my heart because I have daughters or I have kids, and what I do, and all of a sudden there's tension in the story, which I like to get to. But I think sometimes we just read scriptures and we go, yeah, that's the Bible story, and we take the emotion out of it because it's hard to sometimes read that in stories. So
yeah. The other thing that I would say, as far as when it comes to the preaching, your preaching, what I admire most, or what I admire as well, is and you said it a second ago, it's loud and it's a little confrontational. One of the last episodes I had with Stephen Mansfield, we talked about masculinity in the pulpit, and that's the other part that I admire. Like you push into a place where you've moved past the boundary of the stage.
Right.
You've come down into the life. So like, let me move my stuff in here. Let's talk about it. You know what I mean? Let's talk serious about what needs to happen in your life right now.
Yeah.
You know? And there's a masculinity to your preaching and to me, that's just big. That's just big because there's a couple things that are just true for me. And I won't worship a God. I won't worship a God that won't hand me my tail end every once in a while. I won't. There's not. Yeah. I want him to be able to hand it to me. I mean, like, hey, fella, let me check you for just a minute. Like, ooh, yeah. Like now that, because here's the deal for me. I'm a 7. I'm a 7 on the Enneagram.
Yeah. Okay? A lot of ideas.
Yeah,
a lot of ideas.
Got a lot of stuff going on. Got a lot of knobs to turn. I got a lot of things to get addicted to. I got a lot of stuff going on here. Yeah. Here's the deal for me. I've never come up against something that I couldn't figure out, at least partially, a way to master it. In turn, what that means is there's been very few things in the world that has come up against me in my own life that have just like, what I can't, like, there's things I can't get a hold of in my life, you know? And when God comes in and says, so you got this part managed? I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. What, you can't get out of that one, Jared? Yeah. I can't get out. Like, I'm stuck. All right. I'm gonna let you out. All right. I'm gonna break you free. Okay. Now here's the other part. I wanna hear a preacher preach to me that I think to myself, like he might argue with me. Like he might see something in me and step up and be like, let's talk a little bit about this thing in your life, Jared. And I'm like, woo, you know, like that confrontational thing. Like, you know how hard it is as a pastor when that term is often interchangeable with a phrase like, your job is to help people. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, how many times have you heard that? Well, I mean, you're a pastor, you know, your job's to help people. Yeah. And so what we do with help people is we turn it into make people happy. So my job is to make people happy. And and you know what I say, you know, my job isn't to make my wife happy. My job isn't to make my kids happy. Mm-hmm. My job is to make you happy. You know, my job isn't to make me happy. In as much as a 7 is like, can we do something happy? You know, can we please? That's not the job. I want to be put in a place to where I'm going to be confronted on some level. You know,
and I do that. You want to talk about good advice for young preachers? That's it, because the stage is powerful, and all of us have daddy issues, and when people start clapping for you, and you make them feel good, you're on the road to preaching something you shouldn't be preaching, because you will start adjusting and avoiding. And so, like for me, and dude, work in any organization with people. This, they'll clap for him when he's coming in on a donkey, and then they'll freaking crucify him, right? And I'm telling you, man, if your motive or your foundation, your energy is for people that are telling you you're awesome, you're not gonna make it in ministry. So I think for me, like even when I'm walking off the stage, I'm going, did I do what God asked me to do? Did I say it what he asked me to say, and did I say it in the most compelling way that I know how? Right? Yeah. I did my best. I let the Holy Spirit do what he does, but that's what I'm looking for. And if people are walking away frustrated, I'm okay with it. And I think that's actually for some, for the people who are the church, that's refreshing for them. You're gonna bring it. Yeah. And I think the people that have other motives, they tend to, with me, they just, yeah. And so I think there's people like you that are walking in going, come on, let's go. And I love that. And then I think there's some people just kind of playing church, and like, don't mess with that. I'm good. I like to sing my hymns, and I put my money in the plate, leave me alone kind of a deal. And I think those people tend to struggle, with me. So, yeah.
Well, I do admire that. I admire the masculinity that you bring to the preaching part, because it's often seen as such a soft thing. And I'm not saying you have to go in and be a bruiser. I'm not saying you got to just be completely confrontational, but there's got to be a level of boldness, something that you're willing to put a part of you on the line.
Yeah.
I mean, Albert Tate said something in my conversation with him about, do you? I can't remember what I asked him. Something about boldness in preaching and belief, and he said, they don't come back. They don't come back to hear you preach. Something about they come back to see if you still believe. And this idea of, they don't come back because they believe. They come back to see if you still believe.
And
that's
good.
It was something like that. It was just it's a real rich phrase. And the idea that, man, put something out there, like put it. I'm not saying it's got to be good, but hang a little bit of you out in the street, and let people have to. Okay, this guy's buying in. Like, he's bought in.
He seems like he's all in. Yeah,
he's all in. I don't know what's going on, but he seems like he's there. Like, he's at that place. Like, it's the real deal to him. It's the real deal to him.
I think it's hey, listen, we all know it. Life is short. You and me get a phone call tomorrow that could change the rest of our life, right? In the context of the kingdom, I don't want to go through another church gathering ho-humming it. I want to bring something, and it's hard to keep that up, for 52 gatherings a year, but that's my attitude. Our church got out of bed and they showed up, and so let's go get it, and I want to walk away tired. So it has that. That's what's going on in me on Sunday morning. I want to bring it, and I think sometimes I can cross that line of that being really passionate and energetic to people feeling like I'm yelling at them, and so I have to really manage that sometimes. I get so hyped up that I'm just screaming, for 40 minutes, and that's not helping. And so, but that's the posture that I'm in. Today is a big deal. The gathering is huge. And so let's make the most of it.
That this last couple months, I was preaching from the book of Daniel. Okay. And so, the first 6 or 7 chapters, things are pretty smooth, right? You got some really great narrative, you do some really good creative stuff. And then from there on out, things just get just crazy. And it's the way I explained it is, Like if you've ever kicked over an anthill, like that's where commentators and historians and scholars all go. Like you get to Daniel chapter 8, and all of a sudden it's just like everybody's going, and you can't nail down anybody on anything, and they all got their reasons for doing what they're doing and saying what they're saying, and that's just, man, it's hard. It's just hard to figure that part out, you know. And so I spent massive amounts of time in the last part of the book, from chapters 8 to 12. I mean, trying my best. Every week I'm showing up. I'm wore out. People are like, "You okay?" I'm like, I'm tired. I'm tired. Like,
I'm in Daniel.
I'm like, I'm in the book of Daniel. Let me get my chops busted, you know? And so this last week I finished it, and it was so funny because people come to me and they said, "Man, like what a great study." And I'm like, "Man, I'm so glad to be done with that." But here's what it taught me. I thought I worked really hard on sermon preparation before the book of Daniel. I thought I really did. I thought I worked really hard before that. And now once we were in the book of Daniel, like I found another gear, I didn't know I had. I found a scavenger part of me that's looking for resources in some really wild places, trying to piece some stuff together and asking questions. Like I can dig deeper than I was digging before, And that was the thing that was a really good thing. It challenged me, man. It pushed me past all that. But yeah, I appreciate that. Appreciate what you're talking about, And that's true. You do get amped up. You do get really cranked up. You do. What I hear somebody say, turn the knob all the way up and break it off. Turn the volume all the way up. Get rid of it. Let's do this thing. And it's great, but it's wonderful. The thing about your preaching on, I think, where people would take it as confrontational, or maybe they don't like that you get loud or that you get. I think the problem is it's one thing for you to preacher. It's one thing for you to state something that's true, but when you laser focus that in on me with the passion that's there, like that's a little uncomfortable. But the problem is this: the responsibility of the preacher at different points is to reflect it in his being. Is that not what the prophets were told to do? Reflect it in your life. Hosea didn't get to say, "Do you want me to go tell him a story about a man who marries a prostitute?" Like, no. I want you to go marry her. Do you want me to you want me to tell him a story about a guy who walked around with no clothes on? No, I want you to take your clothes off. And I want you to go there. Do you want me to, and so there's got to be a level of, you reflect the wrath, you reflect the anger, you reflect the fury and the seriousness of, certain topics. At the same time, the love and the compassion, I think that's a part of it. I think that's part of the preaching. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, one of the things that I really want is that cadence of, when I get amped up, I don't want to stay up there the whole time, but if that's where we're going, let's go. And then, I can be loud and very confrontational, and then I can also be bawling, up on the stage, feeling and come down, and and so I think it's both and that's one thing I really work on, is just let people breathe, because you need to breathe. It's kind of like a boxing match. We're in round 1 and we're going for 4 minutes, and we took a couple hits, but then we get back in the corner, take a deep breath. I want people to breathe too. I don't want them to be overwhelmed. So that's one of the things I work on, and people around here who I trust, they really give me some great feedback on some of that, because I know that's where I can go. The less prepared I am, the louder and longer I'll get. And so that's my default. So I really want to be intentional in those moments where we do slow down and we do really, we feel that, and we're thinking about it, and there's some emotion to it too. So both and.
Excuse me. Well, that's another thing I would say. You do hit your pause button and bring it down to a very soft place, often. And I had to learn something. I had to learn something from you with that, because you can, you do it well. You don't just have to keep it with the freaking nos. You're not just jamming nos the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's some of these guys I catch on Instagram and they're just on it. It's just like full tilt. And I can go to that place where I'm excited about what it is, and I can transition from funny to serious to sad, and I can kind of keep the same cadence and volume at the same pace, keep it right there. But you do that well. That's true. You do that really well. You talked about the opening up to you didn't say transparency, but opening up and sharing something on a soft level, or even having tears. How comfortable are you with the transparency? What are you comfortable sharing, not comfortable sharing?
Yeah, I think we need more vulnerability from the stage. And there's always too much oversharing.
Sure.
You've been in those conversations. But you probably shouldn't have told me that. But right. I think in the world in which we live right now, maybe go back to Tate. Is it Tate? Albert Tate?
Albert Tate, yeah.
Yeah, what you just said, people are coming back to see if you still believe it. I think there's a level of vulnerability that people need from the stage to go, are you for real? Mm-hmm. I know this message, I'm here, so it's for me, but is it also for you? Does this affect you? And I'm not crying. I really, I'm not preparing a message going, this is where I cry, but I think we need a level of vulnerability from the stage. The question you keep asking is this helpful? Is it helpful? If it's helpful for me, then it's probably helpful for you. And if it's real life, then here we go. I grew up in the church where the pastor, if he wasn't Jesus, he was pretty darn close. I don't remember him ever sharing a moment where he didn't get it right. He got it right because he's the pastor. You know what I mean? And then I grow up and become an adult, and then I hear stories about that pastor, and I go, he didn't have it all together. He just cleaned himself up really good, and he had an image, and I don't think that's helping. I think that's hurting. And so when I'm coming in, I go, again, it just goes back to that idea of being real. I'm gonna be real with you, and I won't share everything, but I'll share something. But here's what I will guarantee: our church. I may not share it all with you, but I am sharing it with somebody. Mm-hmm. And I'll lean into some of those harder topics, and I'll go, I'm dealing with this conversation right now. I don't have it all figured out. I'm not the best, I'm not always the greatest husband. And sometimes you can share those things in humor, you fall short.
Sure.
But then I think there's also going to be moments where you can go, for the dad that's sitting there, or the parent or the church person, and I think I gotta be vulnerable with you and act like I have all the answers, and live in that tension. Even I think the most powerful thing that we can all do is go, I don't have all the answers. There's moments I've been really frustrated with God, and I'm here, right? I still believe in God. And I believe that nobody loves me more than him. Do I still have tensions? Absolutely. At the end of the day, man, I'm gonna still preach the word. And so we need more. That's just me. I think we need more vulnerability from our pastors. I really do.
Yeah. How are we to deal with the high speed come aparts of life, and being a minister in a church? You know what I mean? When there's times where me and my wife get in a hook, we're getting a good one. We got in a good one just the other day, her and I.
Bam! Yeah.
Bam! It just blew up. Up.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's going on. She don't know what's going on, but I'm hacked. She's ticked.
Yeah.
We can't even communicate. We're trying to communicate, but for whatever reason, it's like how do we get to this place? But that internal critic, that internal critic shows up. It's like, man, and this is the dude that's doing the premarital counseling. This is the dude.
You were a pastor. Yeah.
Dude doing the marriage counseling. This guy here, you know, he can't. He and her can't even communicate. It'll take him 13 hours to iron that out right here. It'll take him 13 hours. You know, a trip to her mother's and a phone call to my homeboys, and we're gonna have to iron all this out. You know. But we have these moments. How do we deal with? And I'm talking now. That's a bottom level thing. That's a bottom level thing. You know, you're talking, but I'm talking when life really does kind of fall apart. How do we cope with those things and leading a church at the same time? What do we do?
I mean, I don't have a formula there, but I feel like that's when we should be leaning in, not taking ourselves out, because that's real life, right? I mean, if the gospel is true, then it's real. And I think, that's the thing. Like, I was just chatting with somebody who was part of our church who went through divorce. It was very messy, and then they pieced out. Because it was, and I was chatting with them, and it's very much like, well, not everyone knows my stuff, and I go, which is why you should be here. Like, it's not. And so if we're talking about the qualifications for preaching, I just go, and you're going through stuff. Wow, that you want to talk about just how God has now set you up to have more influence in that conversation. I think there's something valuable for the person sitting in the audience going, I'm going through that too.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those to go, hey, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep fighting. I'm going to keep moving forward. I'm going to keep going after and trying to serve my wife the best I can. Is it hard sometimes? Yes, it is. And do I always get it right? No. But I love Jesus. And so, I just think there's a model there, I think, of like church leaders 30, 40 years ago. You didn't talk about it. You kept it quiet. And I'm just going, why? When we're called to confess and listen, if Jesus is who he says he is, then I don't need to worry about the critics who may try to throw on all that shame and guilt. I think, again, there's a level of vulnerability, but that is appropriate for the stage. But I think in those moments when you go, hey, you know what, my marriage is screwed up, but we're fighting to get it where it needs to be. Hey, I'm struggling with this, but I'm fighting to get it where I need to be. I just think there's a lot of power in that. And I don't think you're doing yourself any good or the church any good if you're really struggling and you're going up there and acting like it's all good. And I'm not saying you go up there and poo-poo every Sunday, and maybe you need a break. Maybe you need to go be restored and take some more naps. But I think there's moments I just go up on stage and I go, you know what, guys, it's been a week, and man, I'm not in the best mood right now. And here's why. Because we just buried a kid who was 12 years old who hung himself, and that sucked.
Yeah.
And I'm struggling right now because I don't know what to say to that mom. And so, and again, I'm not manipulating. I'm just going, that's where I'm at. And I'm still going to bring my best. And I love Jesus, but I'm human. And I think people, I just think there's a lot of power in that, and the vulnerability piece that we miss out on if we just act like we're always good. So
there's got to be some steps to restoration. I mean, there's got to be some get in front of a group of people who are gonna say to you, listen, if you got that going on in your life right now, the last thing you need to be doing, preaching. That's the last thing. You need to unplug that. Let's get you over here in the sidelines for just a second. I mean, you just keep jacking up the three. Just keep jacking up the three. Banging it off the back. Kapong. Hey, you're out. Yeah. Hey, come on. Give me another minute. Come on, off the court. Sometimes you got to get yourself in that place of I gotta go. I gotta get out of the way. I gotta get out.
Yeah. And you can still be vulnerable with that, right? Hey guys, I'm taking a break. And here's why.
Yeah, that's smart.
And because again, I think it's helpful because how many people in your church are going to go through things that you're going to go through?
Yeah.
Everybody, a lot. And I think, yeah. And I'm telling you, we just live in a world right now where people are looking for stuff that's real. They don't want that fake stuff. And I think you're just going to be better off the more authentic you can be. Again, with wisdom. I'm not talking about going up there and just dropping, anything recklessly or anything like that. But more vulnerability. I think early on in my preaching, I got dinged for that quite a bit.
Really?
from other guys going, I don't think you should have shared that. And I'm just going, well, that's where I'm at. I don't think that hurts me. I think people go, that he's a real dude.
Yeah.
I had that thought. I wrestle with that. So I think it's a big deal. I think it's a big conversation, but
yeah. I definitely think it's a, I can definitely overshare. I can overshare some stuff.
Yeah.
Because my filter's so screwed up. It doesn't even, like, there's some things that it's good for me. It doesn't bother me. I don't mind you knowing. I don't mind you knowing. Yeah. I don't mind most of the world knowing. Doesn't make any difference to me.
Now listen, because when we were at that camp this summer and I met you,
yeah.
Dude, I remember one of the first couple of conversations. I mean, you were really sharing some very, very personal things that you've journeyed through. But what did it do for me? It drew me in. And I go, wow, this is a real dude here. I like that. Yeah. I don't go, whoa, I thought this dude was a Christian. I thought he was a pastor. What it does, I go, right. Man, that guy's real. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for guys who are real, who love. You can love Jesus and be real.
Yeah.
And you look at the characters of the Bible, they love Jesus, but dude, they're going through some stuff. And that draws me in, right? And I go, man, that's refreshing. We're not acting like we got it all together, because I think we actually are better in our evangelism as a church when we are a bunch of messy people and we love Jesus and he saved us and he's redeemed us. We're not a church that just acts like we have it all together. And if you don't have it all together, you're not welcome here. And unfortunately, that's usually what we're communicating to people who are far from God. Mm-hmm. So it is this line to go, are we messy? Yeah. Do I always get it right? No. I think we need to be okay with that as a church and be for one another and encouraging one another and figuring out that level of vulnerability. And it's tough for a pastor I get it. It's tough for the pastor to be able to find that line. I get
it. and now I know the structure. I know the structure for a lot of places is different. And so I don't want to sound like I'm coming down on a group or a pastor for the way the church is put together, because if you're a new church, maybe your church operates like, and you're the CEO, and right. That's just how it works. Maybe it's a traditional church and you don't have elders, but you got a deacon board. We're going to go way back.
Right.
You got a deacon board or leadership team, or there's husband-wife teams or men and women on the, what can you share, what can't you share, and being able to go to these guys. But one of the things that occurs to me is if you're in a place to where you need some help and you need some restoration, and going to these guys and saying, look, I'm in a bad place, and I think it's getting worse. I think I'm going further than I want to go, and I need some serious help. If part of your fear is I'm going to lose my job if I do this, two things ought to occur. Okay, you're obviously not in a very good place to be preaching, mm-hmm. and if you're not in a place to where somebody's going to be willing to work with you, and I don't mean like I murdered somebody last week. Can I still keep my job and do the thing? I'm talking you're working in the system, like you're trying to figure this thing out, trying to work on it. But you share some information and they're like, no, fire. When they start screaming, get him out, because we're terrified of what could go down. That's okay. That's okay. It's 100% okay. I mean, people have been fired from churches forever, It's okay. Get in a place that's healthy. Find some people around you that are healthy who can help hold you to that standard. Now, the goal is don't let yourself just kind of wander in the gutters all the time,
Right. Yeah.
Just don't wander around in the gutters like, I think I'm doing okay. I don't mean like that.
Yeah, you're not doing okay.
No, you're not doing okay. You're not doing okay. I just mean you might have to question how much work you've got to do. If you're kind of help leading your leadership team, if you're kind of help leading your elders and some of this stuff, maybe there should be a little more emphasis on, hey, can we talk a little bit about the transparency inside of our church, the culture of our church? Can we start talking a little bit about that? I think it's valuable. Anyway, can you tell me a time in your ministry where you were challenged, you were stretched, you were pushed beyond your own means, and what did you hold on to come out of that hole?
Yeah. I mean, the biggest one, I've been in ministry, for 15 years. Before I got to Rocky, and I've been here for 5 years, I was on a 2.5-year journey of church planting. That didn't go well. Hence, I'm not, in Boston, Massachusetts right now. And, I mean, that thing was tough. And there was a point where, had 20-some people that had already moved up to Boston that were living up there. I, at the time, was living in Arkansas. And, I felt like most of the things in ministry up to that point, that if I went after it, and God did what he does, and it worked. And that was the first time where it wasn't working. And I just kept trying harder and harder and harder, and I think made it even more messier. And I mean, everything I tried just wasn't working. And so when I can remember when it officially shut down, and I just remember thinking, that's it. Who's gonna want me? I just messed up, and I guess I go work at the YMCA now. Something like that. It was hard. It was really, really hard. And before that, I was at a church in Virginia. I was teaching, and when you go from teaching 1,000 people a week to not being known, but for a few handful of people in Jonesboro, Arkansas, trying to lead a team up in Boston, you start going, who am I? Who am I? Because without the stage, I find a lot of identity, in that. And so that was a low point, man. Anxiety was super high. I remember walking around in my living room at night thinking I'm having a heart attack, because it's just what you're talking about earlier, those conversations when God's like, Jared, you ain't getting out of this one, right? That for me, like, I'm not leaving myself out of this. It is done. And really had to go through some tough conversations with people, and also with God and with my family. And it was tough. It was really, really tough. And, but we started the whole episode talking about titles, and I joke about that stuff because I don't aspire to a title. And I came out of that season, I just aspire to do what God has called me to do. And you can call me whatever you want. I mean, it don't really matter to me. But I see that a lot in our guys around here, and wanting the title and wanting the influence. And I thought beat that out of me. And I wonder, man, where I would be, what I would be doing if that thing would have been successful. And I tell you what, that's humbling, because I'm with you. I watch a lot of preachers around the world, and in our country, and there's some, I just go, wow, I don't know about that. And I go, you know what? I don't know. I was on that path, and I can see how you can get to a place where you become so arrogant and prideful that you are doing some things and leveraging some things that you probably shouldn't do. And but that was a tough one. I mean, God really got down to the core of me. In fact, I have a picture in my office of some Boston sports players that just reminds me every day, hey, this is not about you. And as soon as it becomes about you, then you're not building the kingdom. You're not building the kingdom. Kingdom's about Jesus. So it's not about you.
Yeah.
So don't make it about you. But that was tough, dude. I mean, I was substitute teaching in Jonesboro, Arkansas, and just going, what the heck, and just feeling like a loser. And that was a season again where God just reminded me, hey, I love you, not because of what you do, but because of who you are. And it was tough. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there are some things that, you remember the old prayer, Lord, don't give me too much that I forget you. Don't leave me with so little that I have to steal. This whole idea. And I think sometimes when it comes to, this is the scary thing. It's a scary thing. You knock a few out of the park and you get it in front of the right audience. You might be 2 or 3 steps closer to your demise.
Oh,
you know what I mean? You just might be a couple steps closer to, and the problem is that like everything we see in church growth, like it's on steroids. Like the whole thing's on steroids. It's like pump it up. Just keep pumping it. Just keep pumping more juice into it. The bigger, the better. The bigger, the better. And history's pretty lopsided. History's pretty lopsided on the number of young pastors who have gone through that public eye and that high success thing and came out on the other side. History's pretty lopsided on that.
Yeah. And, and you just know we've had some big stories from, in the church fold over the last year or two. And isolation is a killer. But I think for some driven guys, some young guys, and, it's this idea like, I'm better off on my own, and they're moving fast and they're getting stuff done and they're getting the results. It's results, and the numbers are good. And then life's going to smack you. There's going to be a moment it's going to smack you, and it's going to show you what your deal is built on. And unfortunately, some of those things get really, really public. So
it's tough. And so the people don't understand that this isn't just let's just hate on big places and massive success. I don't mean that. No. I mean it. All I mean is, man, history's pretty one-sided. It's pretty one-sided on what happens. Look, the temptation to be known and public and every little thing you say to be put into these little sound bites and slapped on Instagram and all this kind of deal. Like, you can say goober move if you want. You can say it, but here's the deal, But here's the deal.
You're saying goober, dude.
Yeah. Right, I know it is. I know you love it. Yeah. You love it. But here's the deal. Like, it's still enticing. And you can look at it and say, it's bad, it's bad, it's bad, it's bad. Do you want a piece of that pie? I want to say no.
See, and here's the thing you got to be careful of. Like, because I'm totally with you. Like, I think God has given some guys a platform to have influence around the world.
Agreed.
And I go do it, bro. If that's what God has called you to do, go do it. And then I think there's some of us that are aspiring to things that God has not called us to. And at the end of the day, for me in leadership, obviously I'm on the Homilist, so I'm an up and comer.
You're doing it. You're doing it.
Doing it well. I just want to do what God has called me to do. That's what I want to do. I don't want to write a book or have a church certain size. No, I just want to do what God's called me to do. And if those things are in the cards, so be it. But I'm going to surround, but within that, I'm going to surround myself with people who love and care about me. And if they see any ounce of self-righteousness in me, that they come right up alongside of me and they go, hey, dude, don't forget what this is all about. It's not about you. Now, how awesome is it that God would choose to use you in this environment, at this church, for this time? And that should bring a level of humility, not a puffing up my chest. And I think a lot of times in church world, we're doing a lot of things for, we're competitive, dude. We're competitors.
Mm.
And you know what? We should be companions. But instead we compete. And it's not even about the kingdom. It's about us and our church and what we're doing. And then so we can walk in and we can go, look at me, look what we're doing. And I think, man, we're all on the same team here, and we should be companions. And I love being around guys that are coming from smaller churches. I love being around guys that are coming from larger churches. I love guys that are humble and they're real, and you can hang out. And those guys are out there, and they're part of all different sizes of churches. Yeah. When we start acting like we're the crap, and Andy Stanley has some great talks on this, but when we start having our own parking space, you know what I'm saying? Listen, dude, I'm with you. When that's why preacher sneakers right now is such a it's so because it's asking really big questions, and I think and if I don't know Jesus and I'm following, I'd be asking and I would be critical. I think I would. So we just got to it's about our hearts and doing what God has called us to do. And we got to be careful not to go off and do some things we shouldn't be doing. So
I want to also add, you did secure two more weeks at number one just by being the first one to bring up preachers and sneakers on the podcast. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So, I've been, which, did you see Andy's thing a couple of weeks ago with his Dockers?
It's great.
Oh, man. Hey, listen, I'm just telling you, there's some guys out there who have a lot of influence that I really admire, who, from a distance, looks like they're working really hard to keep their hearts in check.
Yeah.
And they're not taking themselves too seriously. It appears they love Jesus, and they're trying to build the kingdom. And I appreciate those guys, man. They may not be the coolest.
Absolutely right.
May not be the flashiest, but dude, they have got some influence that a lot of other people wish they had. And they got it, I think, because of how they've led and their character and their integrity. So
well, I appreciate you saying that and talking through that, because it's a two-edged sword. I mean, I look at it and I go, there's some stuff out there that's wrong. There's some stuff that's wrong with some of this high success, my own parking spot, my own line of clothes, my own, like there's some problems. There's some stuff in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude.
Hey, here's the big question for Jared. The big question for Jared is, do you secretly want a little piece of that pie?
Yeah.
And my answer, I really want that answer to be absolutely not. And the problem is there's a part that's like, I want to not want it. Is that, I want to not want any part of that. I want to, like, I see the attraction to it. I see what's going on. Here's the thing that I do for myself. So if there's any other guy out there that struggles with that, maybe that little piece of envy where you can look over somebody else's fence. You know what I mean? You look over somebody else. You want to see them.
Yeah.
What's Gary doing? What's Gary doing with the brand new water slide in the pool? You start looking over somebody else's fence. Wonder how they got so many people at that church. Well, I heard. Before we get to that place, here's one of the things that I have to do for myself. Is that the only part you want? Because it comes with a whole lifestyle change. Everything's different. Like, what do you love about your life right now? What do you value about your life right now? This is where I go just to make sure I'm in the right place.
Yeah.
Right now, the elders that are at our church, they put together a job description for me, and here's the job description. And I shared this before. The job description is this: do whatever you need to do to be healthy so you can show up and you can preach on Sunday, and then go back to doing whatever else you need to do to be healthy so you can come back and you can do it again next week. Mm-hmm. And if there's some marriage counseling stuff in there that you want to handle, and some little Bible studies you want to put together and that kind of, but you know what we want from you? This is the thing we want. Show up, preach your guts out, and be a healthy individual. Like, that's what, you know what that means? That means I got a lot of freedom. I got a lot of freedom in my life. I'm not interested in changing out that freedom. I'm not interested in that. Yeah. That means I get to go when my girls got volleyball games. We got parent-teacher conferences. We got anything going on. And I'm free. I'm free to go. I'm free to go do the thing. I can cut up, and I can go. It's not a problem. Yeah. I don't want to trade what's going on. And so for me, like, that's the way I have to go. I have to come back to, do I want the whole thing? Nah, I don't want the whole thing. I really don't want that whole thing.
And at the end of the day, that thing will never suffice. That's the trap. That's the trap, man. You're going to, if you said to me, hey, do you want your church to grow? Yes. Mm-hmm. Would you be opposed to having more influence? No, I'm not opposed to that. But what I know is you can have that and still lose your soul. So, are those things worth, sacrificing your family for? Are those things, man, it's a deadly trap to get into. I would rather just, what you're saying, man, do what God has called me to do, be surrounded by guys that are going to encourage me to be the best I can be, and then leave the rest to Jesus, and be comfortable and confident in my skin where God has me at this time. And I'm way healthier when I'm in that frame of mind than when I'm comparing and contrasting and looking at others and trying to figure out the secret sauce or the next pill of evangelism that's going to bring in thousands. I just go, man, just be obedient to what God has called you to do where you are right now. And that should be enough. That really should just be enough.
What do you see on with you when it comes to preaching and looking at the pitfalls, some of your own personal pitfalls you have to be very careful of, and it doesn't necessarily have to be just preaching, but ministry in and of itself. Do you have a group of guys around you who can help identify some of these pitfalls in your life?
So I'm glad you brought it up. I'm in right now our lead pastor at Rocky is Sean Moyers. The former pastor and our original planting pastor of Rocky, his name is Alan Algrim, and he is essentially creating what he's calling covenant groups, which is really just groups of that are filled with pastors, and for soul care. And
where's he located?
He's here in Colorado.
Okay.
So he lives right down the road in Niwot, Colorado. He's working out of Cincinnati Bible College with these groups. And so, but it's funny, they've been predominantly for lead pastors. And so a lot of my role has a lot of lead pastor-ish stuff. It's on the stage. It's very upfront. And I remember Sean and I, we were working through a little bit of tension on something. And he said to me, how come you didn't bring this to me first? I had kind of been holding on to it. I go, because you're my boss. It's tough, dude. It is tough to bring things to your boss, especially if it's about the boss. You know what I mean? Like, sure. Dude, that's tough. And I said, I'd really like to get into one of these covenant groups. So I went to Alan and I was just like, dude, you need to put me in. I don't care if I'm a campus guy, whatever. And so they got me into a group. So I'm in a group with 4 other pastors, and it has been a game changer for me, where we do 1 Skype call a month, and then we do 2 retreats a year, 2 3-day retreats. And essentially, what's said in the room stays in the room. And these guys, you can be yourself, you can be free, you can say what you need to say. And then these guys, they're not trying to change you. They're just trying to get close to you and encourage you. And it has been, for me, that has been the get out of isolation card. I don't have to hold this thing. I don't know what to do with it. or I'm struggling, or those are my bros, man. And those guys, they know everything about me. You know, Alan will say, we got to get to a point where we can say, I have no secrets, and it is well with my soul. And I've been in ministry a long time. I've never been at a place where I could say that. And these guys, they got it. They got it all. And so, I mean, we always have text messages going on. There's emails flying around. So for me, that's been the deal. This group of guys, it is tough to do. And you hear these tensions with these guys trying to have a version of that with their elders and, you know, figuring all that. It's really tough to do. I think people that are in the church, it shouldn't be impossible, but I think it's tough. But this covenant group, for me, I've been in it for a year and a half, has been really remarkable for me. And it has given me that out. And I always know there's a conversation that's coming. These guys care about me. They love me. They're checking in with me. And they know me at my best, and they also know me at my worst. And they keep showing up. And so that's been a game changer for me. Yeah, in ministry. Cool. Yeah,
that's cool. How long is there a certain time?
It's a 3-year commitment. So you commit to 3 years, and it's just the one Skype call a month, and then these retreats, and that's what you're committing to, and yeah, incredible. And so now we've got, we're a year and a half in. We've got that relationship. We kind of know the narrative of what's going on in every guy's life, and so you're just constantly checking up on them and, hey, praying for you today, thinking about you, or guys going, hey, I'm about to go into a tough meeting, could use your prayers. Absolutely.
So what happens? What happens at the end of the 3 years?
Well, the idea would be then we maybe, there's 5 of us guys, and maybe the ones who aren't leading go and lead this, with another group of guys. Some groups stay together, but I've seen the value of it, for me, for in the world of soul care, that I think it's just a rhythm that I need to be a part of, and have that place. And dude, it has helped me out a ton, just even in my own decision making, even just wisdom, wise counsel. Throw something, they're like a bullpen, man. You just throw something to them, and they can just, chew it up real quick, and then they're throwing it right back at you. And it's like, oh, okay. But they have saved me from pitfalls. I'm gonna go talk to this guy. This is what I'm gonna say, and they're like, no, don't say that.
Don't line this cat out. This cat out.
Don't say it like that. Maybe you should say it like this. Maybe you should think about that. Maybe you should read this book. And so it's been really helpful for me. I was in a training a couple of weeks ago. I'm gonna butcher. I don't have the quote written down, but it was on this idea of groups, and I think we always want to talk about accountability. And Alan said something like, "It's not about holding each other accountable. It's about holding each other close," or something like that. And I think I'm with them. And when you're close, when you know that there's guys that are close, you listen to what they say. I don't need guys who just want to ding me when I don't get it right. Like when I hear accountability, I don't get excited. That's your accountability group, dude. I don't want to be in an accountability group. I want to do life with guys, and through that, I know they will hold me to the standard that I'm called to. So so for me, it's just been really, really good. And I hate the fact that I know we both know there's a lot of pastors out there that don't have that, and they're really struggling. And I hate that because there's a better way. So
speaking of books, you said these guys will tell you, hey, you need to read this. What's some of the stuff you've been ingesting these days that would excite me?
Oh, just so happens got some books here for you, my brother. All right.
What do you got?
All right. First book, right here. You need to read this. Unoffendable.
Unoffendable.
You read this book?
No, I don't know.
Brant Hansen. You need to go read this one. This is my #1 book, 2018, last year.
Okay.
He's a Christian radio DJ in San Francisco. Essentially, his whole bottom line is, if you're a Christian, you shouldn't be offended.
Okay.
And I love it. We're going to do a teaching series on it 14 weeks from now, I think, something like that.
Wow.
It's my top book. I bought like 40 copies. When people come in here complaining about something about our church, I gave them this book.
You get unoffendable. That's what you get.
Yeah. I can't believe. Let me give you this. Let me just get. I can't believe a bunch of church people would blah blah. Let me just go ahead and give you this book right here, because I can believe it. I can believe that people who don't know Jesus act like they don't know Jesus.
Right.
So, anyways, that's a good one. You need to read that one.
Okay.
Canoeing the Mountains. You read this one?
No, I have not read that one.
You read books?
Dude, I read books. Don't read
I'm
those
just kidding,
books.
dude. I'm just kidding. Listen, this is a good one. Christian Leadership in Uncharted Territory.
Right.
It leverages the story of Lois and Clark. Great book. If you're a pastor, you should read it. Now, this book here, this is weighty. Okay, this got some depth to it.
What you got there?
Working the Angles.
Working the Angles.
This is my book this year. Okay, this is not for the faint of heart, but if you're a pastor, you need to read this book. Spiritual Disciplines. You know Eugene Peterson?
I know Eugene Peterson.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yes, I know Eugene Peterson. I like Eugene Peterson.
He's in heaven now, but The Shape of Pastoral Integrity. This is the book right here. He wrote this book. Listen, actually, a lot of what we talked about today, he wrote this book 20 years ago. You'd have thought he wrote it yesterday.
Really?
He saw where we were going in church leadership.
Interesting.
And he wrote a book about it 20 years ago, and he said, don't go down that path. He kills it. If you wrestle with practicing the Sabbath and all that, this guy, that's the book. I'm going to read that book every year for the rest of my life.
Is that right?
Yeah, because it's that good.
Wow.
Yeah.
So those are the 3 books you read this year.
I mean, you want one more?
You got more? You got more books you read this year?
My computer's at 4% right now, bro.
Oh,
we're on borrowed time.
Listen.
This book right here, don't judge it by the cover, because it's a horrible cover and a horrible title. What God Wishes Christians Knew About Christianity. I see you frowning.
I'll be honest.
No,
I feel like I already read it by reading the title. That's a lot of words.
Listen. The title's bad. No. The title's bad. Gold. There's gold in here. Okay.
All right.
Don't judge it.
I won't. No judging.
I hate the title looks like this, and it feels very like I'm a television evangelist right now, kind of a vibe. Send your money in, but I'm telling you, this is worth it to go read that book.
Let me see the title one more time.
Right there.
Got myself a screenshot of you holding that up.
You'll thank me for it. Just don't look at the title,
right.
But good stuff in there.
Listen,
Gillum is
last thing I need from you before your computer dies.
Yeah.
We got guys out there who are banged up. They're stale. They're stagnant. They're overwhelmed. They're beat to pieces. And this podcast serves to encourage first, educate, and entertain.
Yep.
You've done the last 2 really well. All right.
Yeah.
What I'm hoping for now is for you to encourage these guys. Give me some up close face camera, some FaceTime up close right there.
Yeah.
And encourage these listeners. What do you want to tell them?
I think the main thing is, don't fall in the trap and think that whatever you're thinking or feeling or going through, that you're the only one who's going through it. And in light of what you do and the position that God has called you, don't feel any greater sense of shame or guilt because you find yourself in that place. I think you got to know that there's a lot of guys and girls out there in ministry that aren't perfect, and they're still getting after it, and they're working and to do it as healthy as they can be. But I think isolation, man, is the killer here. And you got to get some people around you. For me, it's that covenant group. But you got to get some bros that that are going to go with you. You know what I mean? They might not be physically at your church, but they're going with you. I get a text from Steve in my covenant group, if not every Sunday, most Sundays, and he's going, man, I'm praying for you right now. Go get that thing. And he's with me. I'm a big fan of Kenya. I do a lot of mission stuff in Kenya. There's an African saying that I love. I wrote it down. It says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I would encourage you, get some guys in your corner that you can go, you know what? I love Jesus and I love the church, but life sucks right now. And there's guys that go, hey, we are for you. And let's go get it. Let's go get it together. And I think that's yeah.
That's good.
I think that's the deal, because when you're overwhelmed, when you've got those moments, they can keep reminding you of the most important things. And man, I can tell you right now, I mean, I could list them off of these guys, the John Gregorys, the Robbie Fowlers, the Rick Grovers. I mean, these guys have spoken words of truth to me in the moments when I haven't been the best. And these words stick with you. And you need some guys in your corner. Yeah.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you.
Hey, man.
I love everything that you're dropping on us today. And I'm coming out to see you this weekend.
I know. I cannot wait to hang out with you. Hey, can I just say something about you real quick?
Sure.
Because you hype me up. Let me just say this. You are one of the... Oh, man, my computer's about to die. Hang on, dude. Don't do it. Okay, listen. You are... don't cut this out either. Keep this in.
Okay.
I mean... You're the most energetic, genuine guys I've been around in a long time, and it didn't take long, to realize you love Jesus, you love the church, and dude, there's a part of me that I love what you're doing. I love where you're at, and we need more guys like you. Out there and getting after it, and so, man, I appreciate what you're doing, and you and Luke, and you are some good dudes, and so, just because you're out there in the middle of our country in a small little town. What is it, Iola? Where are you at?
You got it.
I didn't even hear. I don't know where it is, but listen, man. Keep rocking, dude. And I really appreciate you. And yeah, you're a good guy, bro.
Thank you for all the kind words. And I mean, look, here's the thing. I mean, I don't get to interview people like you very often. When we start talking about campus pastors, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, fella.
Not even talking about, not the game. We're talking about practice.
Not about the game. Practice. I mean, here we are. You all show up here, and what do we talk about? We talk about practice.
Practice. Yeah.
But I do. I mean, love you to pieces. Love what you're doing. Love the impact that you've had on my oldest daughter when she came out to camp and she heard you speak, and she came back. She couldn't shut up about you and the other kids in the youth group. And Luke, it's just been good. It's a good partnership. Love what you're doing. Love what you've inspired in our kids at our church. My own daughter, who came home. Listen, let me tell you this. Came home, immediately got a job, starts saving money, and says, "Listen, I'm going to Kenya. Like, I'm going. I got a job. Now I'm going to Kenya. Like, this thing is happening." And her mother's looking at her like, "Where did you take my daughter? And who's this man that inspired all this?" Like, this is hey, came home, got the job, and just went after it. Like, she's there banging it out all the time.
How refreshing is that? High school student have a little urgency for the kingdom, bro.
Crazy to me. And look, she's always been a good girl. She's always been a good girl.
I love it.
But listen, when that Kenya deal come up, she said, "Dad, like it's in me. Like I'm what do I do? I'm like,
yeah.
That's
You go do what Jesus tells you to do. That's what you do.
Exactly right. That's exactly right. And unfortunately, what that means is now I gotta go to Kenya. I gotta go to Kenya too.
Yeah, Dad, let's go, man.
Let's go to,
Your
Dad, you
kid's
taking me
gonna
to
lead
Kenya?
you. Yeah. Love it.
So, I appreciate you, brother. I'll see you this weekend.
All right, sounds good.